Hello and welcome to Heartrepreneur TV. I'm your co-host, Velma Gallant. Super excited to have you here today. We have a wonderful show for you today and very special guest. Today's show title is How to Be Brave and Walk in Your Purpose. It's going to be a really good conversation. Today's guest is Angela Jo Colella. Being perfect is not real. Being real is perfect. This is a favorite quote that Angela Jo wrote and lives by, as she believes each person is uniquely created for a divine purpose, and living in that space allows you to be your true, authentic self. Angela Jo is the founder and president of B.R.A.V.E, which for her, brave stands for being bold, resilient, authentic, victorious, and excellent in all that you do. She is a transformational speaker, presentation stylist, content creator, trainer, and author who inspires people through humor, life lessons, and creative techniques, which help people discover how to purposefully live from the inside out to achieve their greatest potential. Welcome to the call, Angela Jo.
Thank you so much, Velma. It's a delight to be here.
I'm really excited about this conversation because, brave for me is another word for courage, and it actually feels purposeful. Like bravery is courage in action. And I don't know if that's a real definition for it, but that's what it feels like to me. I'm kind of curious, what inspired B.R.A.V.E to be such a big part of your message?
Great question, Velma. And I love that courage in action. I always say I have a high chill factor, and that gave me chills. So you're spot on with that. Well, I started my coaching consulting business and speaking business about a decade ago. And then right when I started, I was getting the momentum, and I wound up having a TBI, a traumatic brain injury. And over a couple of years, it just like progressively was getting worse. Just to kind of sum the health part up, it's been a decade of just a lot of confusion and searching for the answers. Finally, they found after a couple of years I had fluid around the frontal lobe of my brain, which almost was a relief, because I was like, oh my goodness, now at least I know why I wasn't able to, process things. And then they wound up finding with more tests that there was atrophy, which could be the onset of dementia, which was very alarming. I still consider myself young. So at a young age, it's horrible no matter how old you are. So I always say after a 10 tissue cry, I just knew God had a miracle that he was going to unfold before my eyes. So fast forward during those 10 years, I struggled, but yet I still persevered. But I wasn't really walking in my full potential because I was tired all the time and experiencing a lot of really bad, debilitating headaches. Last year in August of 2022, I wound up just going to the doctors for a well visit. It was a new doctor, because mine had retired during COVID. And he asked me about the TBI. So I told him, just like I'm sharing with everyone now. And he said, so you had fluid, you had atrophy, and then you also had an aneurysm. And I said, oh, no, I didn't have an aneurysm. And he goes, actually, your records show in 2016, you had a 3-millimeter aneurysm, and you were supposed to get it checked in 6 months. And I'm just like, how did I not know this? So there's a blessing in all of this, though, because if I would have known then, back in 2016, the procedure would have been a lot more invasive and very dangerous. So I thought of that the day I was having surgery. I said to one of my sons, I said, thank God that I didn't know, because at first I was alarmed. So in September, a few weeks later, I wound up having brain surgery because of the aneurysm had doubled in size. And in 7 months after that, so it brought us to like May of 2023, just a few months ago, my CAT scans showed that the aneurysm was gone. So during that whole time, the word brave just kept coming to me that, you know what, I
Mm.
need to stand in the power God has given me. And like you said, brave stands for being bold, resilient, authentic, victorious, and excellent. That's the acrostic that came to me when God gave me the word brave. And from there, I said, you know what, that's going to be my new platform. I'm going to talk about being brave and what does that look like in our everyday life, and how can we stand in that power that we have to walk in our purpose and be aligned with godly principles. So out of that whole decade of, I said to somebody the other day, it was kind of like a decade of dysfunction. I don't want to own that, but it was a lot of confusion, came something really powerful. And I'm more excited now than I've ever been.
I love that. And thank you so much for sharing your very personal story about this. I mean, I recognize the TBI. I had one about 7 years ago.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
And I recognize the aneurysms. That's something that actually occurs in my family
Mm.
on the women's side. So that's something that I'm mindful of as I continue in my young years.
There you go.
Right. And I love what you said about how did you put it? Like that I'd actually reword it from dysfunction, but
Yeah.
it was things, there were certain things falling away and there were certain things falling in place
Mm-hmm.
outside of your field of vision. Right.
Yes.
And I think that's the beauty that God brings to this. And for those of you who choose different words over God, I mean, that could be the universe, whatever feels good to you, but it still does point to those things that fall into place
Yes.
outside of our field of vision, like the roots that grow deep in the ground. We don't see those, but they grow deep,
Right.
right?
And it does it. It's great, and that's why I probably hesitated, because I'm not going to use that word anymore because I don't like it. As far as the dysfunction, it was, just the the challenges that I experienced. Really, when we look at the challenges, because we all have them,
Mm-hmm.
we can choose. Are they going to refine us and make us stronger and give us more roots, to your point? And for me, that's exactly what I chose. Now during the time, did I have some pity parties? Maybe a couple. Nobody showed up though for those. They never do.
Well, and I really want to, I rather really kind of stick with that one for just a second. You'd said earlier you had a 10 tissue cry, and
Hmm.
then decided that God was going to be using this for a higher purpose, right?
Right.
And I think it's really important to give ourselves the grace to
Mm,
have those cries.
right.
One of my dear friends during challenges that I've experienced over the years said, "Feelings buried alive never die." So
Mm.
if we hold back those tears, sometimes we hold back our healing. And one of my favorite sayings is, "Tears are liquid prayers."
Yes, I love that. They really are. They really are, and they're cleansing, and it allows us to feel those feelings so that we can identify them and work through them.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is, I feel so important, because in this world where we speak of, and it is very important, what you focus on expands, what you put your
Mhm,
attention on is important.
mhm.
Be positive, all of those things, they're valuable. However, not at the expense of not actually feeling the feelings that we're having,
Right.
because that, I mean, to me, though, sometimes those ideas can be a little bit toxic, in that it's like putting a band-aid over an open dirty wound.
Right, right. It becomes a sort of denial that we're not actually experiencing it, and through the experience is how we heal and how we grow and learn.
Absolutely. And those are the times when we call on our bravery,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yes, we can actually put it on, as we're getting dressed in the morning, to actually, own that and put it on as we face the day.
Absolutely. So, um we're just going to recap it here for a second. B.R.A.V.E stands for, can you share again what B.R.A.V.E stands for?
Absolutely. For me, the acrostic is the B is bold, R is resilient, A is authentic, V is victorious, and E is excellent. So how do you walk in those attributes and be bold, be resilient, authentic, victorious, and excellent in everything you do? It's intentionality. It's really making that conscious decision to say, you know what, I am brave, and this is how I'm going to show up in the world.
Well, and when we connect this to purpose, right, which is part of what you're choosing to encourage in the world, and to encourage with the people that you connect with,
Right.
is part of being in our purpose. We need to boldly be in our purpose. We can't just be halfway into our purpose or meekly being into our purpose. That serves nothing, right?
Right.
So I absolutely see how this acronym, this word, the word itself and the acronym connect deeply to our purpose, right? We need to be brave as we move into our purpose. We need to be bold as we move into our purpose.
Yeah.
We will be called to be resilient, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
when we're in our purpose. So as you're heading into your purpose, well, let's use you as the example.
Right. Uh-huh.
Where do you tap into your resilience, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because as you were just getting ready to say that, I was thinking to myself, I remember the day that as I was creating this and getting clearer on my vision, my purpose, I thought to myself, all these years I've worked with wonderful women for decades and helped them align with their purpose, their goals, their visions, their dreams, cheering them on. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is my purpose. This is exactly what I'm called to do. And talk about a light bulb moment. And, so that really helped me because I took that inside out approach and really focused on what it was, what gifts has God given me and how can I use them? And I already have used them to help others. So to your point or your question, I think resilience for me is really about trust. It's trusting God's plan for my life and just having that faith in knowing. I knew with confidence, I can't even tell you how much I knew that I was going to overcome, and there was giving up was not an option. Giving up was definitely, I'm not going to give up. So for me, resilience definitely comes from my faith.
Absolutely. And we can see, as you were sharing your story about the last 10 years, that is 10 years of resilience.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you. Yes. Right.
That was absolutely 10 years of resilience and authentic. How do you see authentic tying into our purpose?
Yes, another great question. I think the quote that I wrote, "The being perfect is not real, being real is perfect," really says it, because I think we need, Velma, and everyone listening, that we need to take time and almost like take an inventory of who am I? Like, really, who am I? I think that's one of those questions that gets people, thinking, and it's one of those universal questions that I think people sometimes struggle with. And I believe it's almost because we're so busy with all the other things that are bombarded in our life, and we sometimes don't take that time to listen to that still, quiet, authentic voice inside of us to say, you know what, no, this is my authentic voice, and I'm going to walk in it. I'm going to stand in the power, for me, again, that God gave me, and he gives all of this if you choose that, to walk in your divine purpose. So for me, authentic is about being true to your calling, to your divine calling.
I love that. I really love that. I have found over the last number of years that authentic is one of those words that's been overused quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, I've seen it used in a way of, well, if I say this, perhaps not being quite so kind, but if I say this, well, I'm just being authentic,
Right, right, right.
right? And
Mm-hmm. Mm-mm,
um,
mm-mm.
that's not what you're speaking about here. I love what you were talking about, taking an inventory of those things, and then
Mm-hmm.
also expressing ourselves with that authentic voice,
Right.
which I suppose is, there's a light side and a dark side to everything. There's a healthy expression and an unhealthy expression. And what you're speaking about when we're being brave is stepping into that healthy expression of authenticity. At least that's how I'm hearing it.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you're saying that because with the class that I do, I take each word and I start with what is bold not? What is
Mhm.
authentic not, like because sometimes we look at words and like you said to your point, it's like, oh, I can say whatever I want to say because I'm being me, Well, not so much. And I always like to say, speak the truth in love, you know. You can say something authentically and truthfully in a way in two different approaches. Like you said, there's always, your virtue can also be your vice too. So you really need to choose correctly. So it really is speaking with that intentionality, with love behind it, that you want to help or speak life into somebody's life or speak life over a situation by sharing your voice, but doing it
Mhm.
in a loving way.
Absolutely, because being brave to me, as we're going through this conversation, being brave to me is a heart-centered experience. Because
Mhm.
if I'm not heart-centered, I'm not being brave. I'm being aggressive.
Yes, exactly. And the same with being bold. Bold is not like, forcefully, like I'm just going to go into the room and, like a bull. No, being bold is really being, again, true to yourself and speaking your truth. Again, I'm going to say with love, and walking in knowing with confidence who you are
Mhm.
and whose you are.
I love that. And I love the word that you have in there, victorious, for the V. I know that, for myself as a survivor, and I'll use that word for a moment because it's not
Okay.
actually the word that I use. As a survivor of teen trauma, um, when I moved past just surviving it, I moved past into I'm a I'm a thriver
Yes,
of
yes.
it, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
thriving is when I have become victorious over that experience, right?
Yeah.
So I'm standing on top of it. Like, I can see myself. I see the image of being on top of a mountain, and
Mm,
we've seen those, arms up in that V, like
right.
victorious. I'm
Yeah.
standing on top of those things. I'm not in the muck anymore. I'm on top of it.
Yes,
So
exactly.
that's kind of how I have been in this moment, experiencing that word as we're
Mhm.
talking here. Tell me a little bit about how you share victorious with the women that you work with.
Yes. For me, when I was going through all these health challenges, I mean, that was the biggest part of the challenges. There were other things, personally and professionally too. All the different areas felt
Mhm.
like if you look at your life as far as like in pillars, so to say, your physical, your emotional, your relational, your spiritual, all the pillars besides my spiritual felt like they were falling apart. they were not strong. And that extra, my spiritual, my belief, my trust, my faith, knowing that I was going to have victory. Like I was speaking victory over my life. My mantra became,
Mm.
I am happy, I am healthy, I am whole, I am healed. I still get chills saying it now because I still say it, because we're always still going through things, but knowing that I was going to experience that victory. It's almost like calling things that are not as if they already are.
Mm-hmm.
So when we call things that are not as if they already are, we're owning that victory actually before it happens.
I like that. I really like that. And I like what you said there, speaking victory into your life. I mean, how would our lives change and how could we walk more in our purpose when we're speaking that victory into our lives? Like
Right.
being on purpose, living on purpose, walking in purpose, that in itself is walking in that victory. That is being victorious inside of our lives.
It really is. It really is. And you hear people constantly saying, they're struggling with what is my purpose? What am I doing? What am I called to do? And how many people are unhealthy in their roles, and, of course we all have to make a living,
Mhm.
but what do they say? If you're doing what you love, you'll never get tired because you're walking in your purpose. So yeah, I think it's just important to, again, look inside and really take time. That inventory
Mhm.
word coming up for me again, to say, what am I called to do? And I know for me, as I'm doing this, when I'm building the B.R.A.V.E. community and my platform and my vision, I also work another job, so it's
Mhm.
it's not about, you know um maybe just throwing it all up there and just, going right for your purpose. I mean, if you can, that's great. But, I mean, sometimes we just have to just say, you know what? I'm doing this while I'm doing this, and until doors open.
Well, and that triggers a consideration
Mm.
for me in that how do I express my purpose here where I'm at?
Yes, beautifully said. Beautifully said. And you can make an impact no matter where you are. Again, it boils down to being your authentic self, right? Bringing that self to the workplace, whatever you're doing, being bold enough to do that.
Right. Because I've waffled back and forth between what does purpose mean to me,
Hmm.
and I myself have decided that my purpose is who I be in the world. And there are multiple ways that I can
Hmm.
express that, whether that be through my occupation, whether that be through, how I interact with the people in my world, my friendships, my uh, relationships with my family, that kind of thing. I
Hmm.
can express my purpose inside of volunteering in a location. So that's how I've been playing with that. And have you observed that kind of
Hmm.
experience with some of the women that you've worked with?
Yes, and I love that. And I'm glad you brought that up, Velma, because when you're saying that, it's almost like a common thread. It's like you're weaving who you are into everything you do. And
Hmm.
how beautiful is that? How beautiful when you're true to yourself and you're walking in accordance to who you are. You don't have that false sense of self, or you don't have that um, uncertainty of who you are. And it's so interesting. I was talking to somebody last night about this, and this is the second time somebody said this to me over the last couple weeks, and they said, "You really look relaxed." And I'm like,
Hmm.
wow. Like, it sounds like such a just like, I don't want to say a simple word, but it really resonated with me. At first I was just like, what did I look like before? But but in all honesty, it was such a compliment to me because relax equated to peaceful. And when you're
Mhm.
walking in your purpose, in all aspects of your life, that you're bringing that true self into your workplace, into your relationships, into your family, into all areas, your church, or wherever you are, you're volunteering. That's beautiful. And when you're doing it with excellence, which is,
Yes,
the last part is just, it wraps it up. It wraps it up into like a beautiful bow. And that's your gift. That's your gift. God gives us the gifts and then we give them back to others, to the world. And that's basically our gift back to him as well.
absolutely. And it's interesting because as we've been continuing this conversation here, what if brave is our purpose? And what if as we're being bold, resilient, authentic, victorious, and excellent in our lives, no matter where we are situated in this moment, then maybe we are on purpose. Maybe,
Oh my gosh.
maybe we are on purpose. And I think that
Mm.
I love the idea of inviting people into maybe you're on purpose right now and you just haven't been looking at it through the lens of Brave.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you just made me like well up there. That's a beautiful way of saying it. Thank you. And that's so true. It's so true. I think being brave is us stepping out, us being, who we're called to be. So thank you for
Mhm.
recognizing it and putting it into that perspective, because that was a beautiful way of looking at it.
Well, I think it's super valuable because I mean, as you experienced, and as I know I have experienced, as we go through life,
Mm-hmm.
this expression of my life is
Mm-hmm.
going to change. There's going to be a point where this expression of my life is going to change.
Mm-hmm.
And does that mean my purpose disappears? Absolutely not. It
Mm-hmm.
means that I get to express it differently.
Yes, yes. And it's ever growing, it's ever changing. And it's beautiful when we recognize that, again, that
Mhm.
intentionality, that we're living that out. We're living that out. And I always say it's an inside out job. It really is. It's an inside out approach for you to get connected. They say one of the longest journeys is from the head to the heart, even though it's a short distance, but yet
Mhm.
it is a long journey, because it's giving yourself the gift of being still enough to listen and really listen to that still small voice inside of you saying,
Mhm.
who am I and what am I called to do? What am I called to be?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would imagine that as people play with play with you and look at their lives through the lens of Brave, that
Hmm.
I'm going to hazard a guess that many of these women realize that they've been expressing their purpose often, more often
Yes,
than they realized.
exactly. And to validate that to them,
Mm,
to let them know, guess what? You're braver than you think. You really are braver than you think. When you look at what you've done, somebody might think, you know what, oh, I'm just a housewife. No, you're not. Like, look at what you've done. Look at what you've accomplished. You don't have to be the CEO of a company. You don't have to have this platform of whatever it might be. Your platform is exactly where you are.
absolutely. Absolutely. One of my most valuable expressions of me and my purpose has been being a mother, has been creating home
Yes.
and speaking
Well,
into the lives of my own son and other young people in the world. Like that's
mhm.
been one of those expressions of my purpose.
Exactly. I feel the same way. I have 3 grown sons and 7 grandchildren, and
Mm.
there's for me, it makes my heart smile. It really does, to do my best in instilling, and just giving to them and loving on them, and meeting them where they are. And I think the other thing that, speaking of children, when I started this, the Be Brave, I was focused primarily on women, kind of like, I'll just say our age group.
Hmm.
And some women are going, wait a minute, I want to work with you too. And I'm only in my 30s. I'm like, okay, sometimes, it really doesn't matter where you are as far as how old you are. But the conviction that I have right now is also, and even almost like a little stronger with young girls, because I feel like our youth today are being influenced so negatively by so many, like their identity has been shaken. And if I can help just a little bit to show them that if they align themselves at an early age with their purpose, with who God has called them to be, oh my gosh, the worldly views are so distorted right now. And everybody, what are they doing? They're here, they're always looking down. I said I wanted to create a movement called OLU, Operation Lookup. Like like everybody, just look up, you'll get your answer that way, because it's amazing how we all are attached. No, I shouldn't say we all are. How easy it is to be attached to the technology. And technology is great, but when we let it, when we let the internet and the comparisons and the negativity affect who we are at our core, that's when it becomes really dangerous. So
Healthy expression or unhealthy expression, right? So
yeah.
that, and I love what you're sharing there, because I think also, I feel also that as you continue to impact these, whether it starts with the women that are in the more mature parts of their lives,
Mm-hmm.
they still, as they move into their purpose, they begin speaking into the lives of the younger, and it creates that trickle down effect. So
Right.
it doesn't matter who you play with. When
Mm-hmm.
you're inviting someone to be brave and in and on purpose,
Yes.
then it's going to have a beautiful effect. So we are at the end of our time, and I know this
Okay, that's
conversation
okay.
could go on for a lot longer, because this has been fantastic.
Thank you.
I want to make sure that people know how to connect with you. So you are on Facebook. You have a
Mhm.
business page called Angela Joe, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you're also on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe your Instagram handle is I_am_Angela Joe, all
Correct.
one word,
Yeah.
J-O. And then you also have a community as well. Is that correct?
Yes, it's Be.R.A.V.E. community on Facebook as well.
Okay. So when you go to Facebook and Instagram, make sure that you connect with Angela,
Thank you.
um, and and become part of this Be Brave movement, because we
Yes,
all are on it.
yes, yes. I love that. Thank you. And everybody, just know in your heart that you are already brave, and to focus on that, and you can just learn other skills on how to even walk more purposefully in that space.
Perfect. And for those of you who are already in the community, Angela's here. Angela Joe is here. So make sure you connect with her. put some comments in here about what kind of sound bites made sense to you. We would really love to hear what you got from our time together today. Please put those in the comments here in the community. And for those of you out on YouTube land, come on over to Facebook and join us here at Heartrepreneurs with Terry Levine. You will be able to connect with more heart-based business owners like Angela Jo, like myself, and like Terry. We'd love to have you. And we look forward to seeing you on the next Heartrepreneur TV. Angela Jo, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Velma. It was a pleasure.
Brilliant. We'll see you all next time. Have an awesome day.
Bye-bye.